chapter 2, verses 1 through 8, we are also lively stones within that structure. So when the scripture in Daniel chapter 2 and verse 34 and verse 45 says the stone came and smote the image on his feet, it's talking about Christ making the initial assault and then raising us up to take over the whole world. That's why it said it became a mountain, meaning a multitude of stones, a big stone, and it filled the earth. Okay? So now we can go and bounce to Daniel chapter 7. We're going to go to Daniel chapter 7. And we're going to start off at the top, verse 1. Daniel, chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Continue. Then he wrote a dream and told the sons of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven struck upon the great sea. When it said the four winds of the heaven, it's literally talking about all of these directions. Literally, from Elam to Babylon to over here. We're gonna keep it here though. From Greece. You understand? This is what all the dynamic, when he said the great winds, it's literally talking about the global powers of the day. The military might of the day during that time being in conflict for Babylon to be the preeminent kingdom. That's what it means when it says the four great winds strove. It's talking about in all directions there was a constant battle, a constant struggle between armies and nations. The armies of the nations to establish themselves as the preeminent kingdom. Read that verse again. Verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. Verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Four great beasts. Let's do this. Before we move on, let's go to the same chapter, and you're going to read what, verse 17 or 18, that tells you, it establishes what, it's chapter 7 verse 17 that establishes what these beasts are. Okay, so that from the beginning of the breakdown, you know that it's actually what it's talking about. It's talking about kingdoms. Go ahead. Daniel chapter 7 verse 17. These great beasts, which are four, go ahead, are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. In other words, which shall emerge in the earth. Now, he's going to describe them. And I guess the camera person can go down to the sign and follow the description of what we're dealing with, okay? Go ahead, brother. You're going to go back now to chapter 7 and verse what?
Verse 3.
And verse 3. Go ahead. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea. So, in other words, the four great beasts you're going to see are symbolic for what the four sections of the image of Daniel chapter 2 of Nebuchadnezzar's vision was. It's one and the same. It's the same. It's a different allegory that meant the same thing. Nebuchadnezzar dreamed of an image that consisted of four elements, whereas Daniel is dreaming of four entities that are considered beasts. Go ahead. Diverse one from another. Different. Continue. Verse 4. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. And the funny thing is, the lion that had eagle's wings in Daniel chapter 7 is equal in its meaning, equal in its symbolism to what the head of gold was in Daniel chapter 2 in the vision of Nebuchadnezzar. It is the Babylonian Empire. And if you check through archaeology, this was an emblem of the Babylonian Empire. It was adopted from the Assyrians, who the Babylonians took down. Nevertheless, it became Babylon's image, and it was called the griffin. It was a lion that had eagle's wings. You know, an old mythical creature. You know, you might have seen it in some Sinbad-like movies or whatever. Anyway, it was symbolic of the Babylonian Empire, like I said, that took Israel down and had its reign from 586 to 538 BC. Go ahead. Verse 4. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld to the wings thereof, were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand up upon the feet as a man. In other words, because that man was symbolic of the king that led that kingdom to power, which was Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the king that led Babylon to its height. Babylon didn't just rise up overnight. There were a succession of kings that Nebuchadnezzar was a part of. But Nebuchadnezzar symbolized and reigned during its height. Go ahead. And a man's heart was given to it. The reason it says a man's heart, it says meaning a man's mind. It's literally talking about Nebuchadnezzar leading that kingdom into its full force. Go ahead. Into its greatest, the height of its expansion. Continue. Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear. Now the bear, continue, and it raised up itself on one side. The reason it says raised up itself on one side, because the bear consisted, let's do this real quick. Come to the map over here. The bear is talking about the Persian and Median Empire. When it said the Persian and Median Empire, it consisted literally of two empires, Media and Elam, which were the Persians, which in Europe, actually, the Persians dominated the Medians. They became a vassal to the Persians and extended their empire like we said before. You can see the words here. The Persian Empire at its fullest extent. And that's what that was about. So when it said the bear raised itself up on one side, it said of this dual empire, one of them became a dominant force and made the other vassal. Go ahead. Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side. Right? And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. The 3 ribs are the 3 empires that the Persians had to conquer to become the preeminent empire of his day. Those kingdoms were the Lydians, Lydians, the Lydians, the Egyptians, and the very Babylonians, who were the dominant force that preceded the Persian and Median Empire. Read it again. Verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. Right. Go ahead. That was the decree from the spirits, from the Most High, telling Persia to go ahead and take control. And they did. They governed for a long time. Go ahead. Verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. Now stop. The leopard is symbolic of Alexander the Great. He was referred, his title that was given was called the leopard because of the swiftness of his conquest. Beginning at the age of 21, within 12 years, it was 20. At the age of 20, he set out to conquer the known world, and by the time he was 32, had done it. With that, we're going to take a break, come back as soon as we change the tape.